Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Let's Talk with Wherry. I'm Wherry, and this is a space where we have real conversations to facilitate healing. Okay, so we know here in the U.S. things are happening. A lot of things are happening when it comes to the uncovering or even greater uncovering, because this is not anything new, but the greater uncovering of how deep and systemic racism, discrimination, injustice is in this country, and how Black people are disproportionately affected by that. There have been celebrities and organizations who have spoken out, against racism. To be honest, it has been more than we have ever seen before. Some of it is performative, but that will be a video for another day. But you do have some people who are speaking out, who are genuinely trying to be more aware and do their part in making sure that they are part of the solution and do not blindly or intentionally further exacerbate the issue of racism that we have in this country and how it connects police brutality and housing discrimination and opportunity to quality education and just so many other aspects of living here in the U.S. The most recent development that has occurred, or really just maybe over the past day or so, that I am doing this video about is this comment by a pastor who stated that he wanted to change the terminology white privilege to white blessing. And that is problematic for several reasons. But before I get into that, I do want to read his full statement in case you are not aware. So his initial statement, this is Pastor Louie Giglio. He stated, "We understand the curse that was slavery, white people do," Giglio said, "and we say that that was bad, but we miss the blessing of slavery, that it actually built up the framework for the world that white people lived in and lived in." And he states that he wants to start using the term white blessing instead of white privilege. "I'm living in the blessing of the curse that happened generationally that allowed me to grow up in Atlanta." So that is a snippet from a fireside chat, I guess you can call it, that he was having with Lecrae and then also the CEO of Chick-fil-A as well. So let's just start off with the obvious. Maybe for some it may not be obvious, but it's extremely problematic that he wants to change the term to white privilege to white blessing. Let me also say before I get into that is that he has since sent an apology, a statement saying that, he should not have used the terms and he regrets that and so on and so forth. You can definitely Google it to find out more about that and what he stated, in his full apology statement. But wanting to change white privilege to white blessing is a manifestation of white privilege within itself. To put it in another term, let's think about it this way. If you are the offending party in the issue, let's say you murder someone, okay? Let's go ahead and use it. And I know this is kind of extreme, but I want to make sure that I break this down in terms that make this simple so that people can understand, just in case you were confused, why the statement by this pastor is problematic and why it's a problem to want to call white privilege the white blessing instead. So let's say you murder someone and you are now caught and you are, charged with it and you are now put in prison. And so this is on your record and there is overwhelming evidence, like there's no shadow of a doubt that you were the one that murdered this person. There were witnesses, there's evidence, there's DNA, everything that is needed to convict you is there. And so now you are subsequently convicted. As the person who committed this heinous act of murdering, you don't get to go to the judges or whoever else, the lawyers, or even to speak to the jury to say, you know what, when you put this on my record, can you just call it an extreme act of physical exertion? Sounds absolutely crazy, right? No, it's not an extreme act of physical exertion. It's murder. When you are the abuser, when you are the offender, when you are the person who has done something wrong or said something wrong, you don't get to reframe or reach or change the terminology or try to, totally whitewash or transform the reality and the impact of what has happened to you. That is so much more egregious. That that exacerbates the pain, that exacerbates the wrong that you did, that you said. And it ends up hurting the person, your victim, even more, and the people who love them. And so this is really the impact that wanting to, or even making this statement. And yes, I understand he's apologized, but we have to address the fact that this was an original statement that was broadcast. And so for him to even say that, let's turn it to one, I want to change the terminology, is problematic within itself. But then not only do you want to change the terminology, you want to now call white privilege a white blessing. White privilege comes off of the fact that Black people in this country were dehumanized. We were legally on the books as just 3/5 of a person by the government, here, the U.S. government, where we live, where we were snatched from our homes and brought over here into forced labor and beat and raped and murdered and treated like property. We were on the books as property that was 3/5 of a person. And that's how white privilege and the wealth and the opportunity that you see that white people are more likely to experience in this country as compared to Black people, that's what that's built off of. It's literally built off the backs of slaves. White opportunity is built off of the pain of Black people in this country. White privilege is built off of this, the abuse and the neglect and the rejection and the criminalization and just the segregation of Black people that has caused us to now generationally have experiences that makes us more likely to actually experience the worst in this country as opposed to the best. There's no blessing in that. You can't change the terminology of what you did to people because it makes you uncomfortable. Going back to that example, you don't get to change the fact that you're a murderer if you murdered someone. You're a murderer. Just because that makes you feel bad to have that title, that doesn't change the fact of the reality of what you did. And it's the same thing when it comes to even talking about white privilege. And let's be honest, let's be real, because again, this is about having real conversations to facilitate healing. White privilege, I understand that if you are new to this whole understanding of your role in society and how just your existence perpetuates a system that systematically devalues the lives of Black people and other people in this country, I get it's a lot to take in. It totally goes against everything you've been taught. And not just taught just in your family, but even in schools, and compared to what the history books have taught you, compared to your lived experience and the world that you have lived in and what you have been told and, you know, the propaganda that you have been fed, whether that's through the media or TV, or maybe even through family members who also don't value the lives of Black people and people in this country. This could be just a totally, uncomfortable experience to even come to terms with the fact of accepting that just because of the color of your skin, you have privilege that people who have more melanin in their skin do not have. I get that it's a lot to take in. I understand that it can be really hard to try to reconcile everything that you have learned, everything that you have lived, everything that you've been taught, to now try to reconcile that with the reality of the chaos and the pain and the systemic injustice and the systemic discrimination that devalues Black people because of the color of their skin. I get it. It's a lot to take in. And even though it's uncomfortable to sit in the reality and the understanding of white privilege, I challenge you to sit in that discomfort. Because until you are comfortable in that discomfort, you cannot be a true ally. You also cannot fully be part of the solution. Putting up social media posts, putting up a blackout post or a blackout picture on your page, it doesn't make you a white ally if you are unable to also accept and understand and take the time to research and to truly understand what white privilege is and how it affects your existence and also the existence of Black people and people of color in this country. It's important that you understand you don't get to reframe history and the reality of what's happening just because it makes you uncomfortable. Racism literally kills people. Discrimination literally kills people. Injustice literally kills people of color in this country. And not only does it literally kill us, it destroys the communities that we live in. It makes it harder for us to have opportunity if you're looking at this from a natural sense, okay? Because, from a spiritual sense, and I'll get to that in a second because I am a person of faith, but right now I'm just talking from a practical standpoint, is that racism and systemic injustice and discrimination, it increases the likelihood of us not having access to the full opportunities that we should have in this country. And this has been a case since we have first been brought over here as slaves for 400 years. And just because slavery is not, we're not on a cotton field picking cotton and, whatever, living in the outhouses behind, master's house, do know that slavery, it has transformed. It has been able to live and to thrive, even though we're not on the cotton fields living behind master's house. Slavery has manifested itself in ways that causes Black people to be disproportionately affected by the injustices within the justice system. It causes individuals of color, Black people, to be less likely to have opportunities or access to quality education, to classrooms that aren't overfilled, under-resourced, and less qualified teachers are there. And that's not to go say anything negative to the individuals that still do choose to show up and come to these schools and try to make the best of the best. I appreciate you. We appreciate you. But the truth of the matter is that something has to be done. Something has to change. And if a solution is going to happen, it's not going to happen on the back of changing white privilege to white blessing. It's not going to come at the expense of increasing or duplicating the pain of those who are already experiencing the pain of being treated unjustly because of the color of their skin. It's white privilege. It exists. It's real. Take the time to do the research. Take the time to really learn just the implications of what it has done in this country and how it still thrives. Go back to even the origins of how this country started and how the wealth of America was really created. It was created at the expense of Black people. And so the generational wealth that white people are more likely to have and to experience has come at the expense of the abuse, the murder, the neglect, the criminalization, and the devaluing of Black people. And so I encourage you to have conversations with people who you trust, who you care about, who can help you to be able to navigate this space. One asterisk I want to put to that is just be mindful of the emotional burden that you are putting on your Black friends and your friends of color, because right now it's a lot that is happening. It's a lot that's going on. And is that there's tons of books and resources online, free, completely free, that you can be able to learn what you need to learn, as opposed to taking an easy route and just talking to a person of color who is already dealing with all of the news stories and new developments that we get in this country. I'm a person of faith, and so ultimately I know that my fate, I know that my life is in God's hands. And so even with talking about the reality of what has occurred in this country and what has been an issue for the past 400 years, I don't want to close out without still having a moment of hope. And so I want to encourage everyone, no matter who you are, white, Black, person of color, however you identify, where you live in this country, even in the world, is that I don't want you to lose hope. I want you to fight for justice from the position of hope. I want you to fight for the dismantling of systemic injustice from a position of hope, and knowing that we can do this, that we can truly value each other because of the content of each other's character and not because of the color of someone's skin. Is that equity, not just equality. Equity is possible. Liberty is possible. Freedom is possible. But it all starts with us wanting to be honest about what has happened, for us loving each other enough to deal with the hard truths and to take the time to educate ourselves so that we can be part of the solution. So that is all that I have for today. This was a special installment. My schedule is actually to post videos for this every 2 weeks, but I was reading this story for the past day or so, and I'm just like, okay, I have to make a video about that. But you can look for another video next week, but the schedule is every other week unless something else happens. And so I'll do an additional video that I'll post here on YouTube. You can connect with me on Instagram and Twitter at Sherry_Wherry. That's SHERY_WHERY. You can also check out my Facebook business page, which is Sherry C. Wherry. And then you can also look at my website if you want to know about me, what I do, and the services that I offer, and any other updates that I have to share. And that is SherryWherry.com. Thank you all for your time. I look forward to seeing you next week, where we talk with Sherry Wherry and we continue to have real conversations to facilitate healing. All right, take care. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.